how did you
I think
how did you learn basically?
if we're talking about like the same volume of training, I would definitely say like, I mean, I was fortunate enough that I was introduced to like a lot of very like intelligent means of training very early on. So my original coach in Nanjing, he's under a guy named Rob Bernacki, and he's out of Nanaimo in Canada. He has a gym called Island Top Team. And so he was like very heavy on a lot of like concepts in jiu-jitsu. So a lot of the way I approached training it really stemmed on that. And at a similar time, when I had no responsibilities in school, I was watching a lot of tape and I was listening to a lot of podcasts. So this is when BJJ Mental Models, if you're familiar with this podcast, started kicking off, and it gave me a lot of time to really listen to a lot of these ideas. And the guys who started Mental Models, one of them is black belt under Bernacki, Matt Kwan. And so it really introduced a lot of these ideas and kind of exposed me to them more after having already been somewhat familiar to them, just because of my coach really teaching that. But then being able to go into more depth. So like, for example, he talks about like different ways to interpret information in jiu-jitsu. So he's he has this thing called alignment theory, which is basically everything can be broken down into posture, structure, base. And then he defines these things. It's not just like, this is something I really like, where it's like, if you want to think about a problem, right, things have to be fairly clear for you to actually like derive things from them and then come to conclusions. So for example, it's not like you hear this a lot where it's like, oh, you want to be in good base, but what does it actually mean, right? It's like it's hard to define. So he like came up with definitions for all these things, and so it makes it easier to think about. So for example, like base is, well, at least his definition at the time was, your base is your ability to generate and absorb force relative to your goals. And this is a very like easy definition. So you can think about base more creatively now, because now you can fit that into so many different positions. Base isn't just being on top and being stable. Base can be, you can be on bottom playing guard, but if you have a good ability to carry weight and then like exert force, this means you're in good base. Similarly, like you can make different analogies, right? If I'm a sprinter, there's optimal base for sprinting, but that doesn't mean it's the optimal base for everything, right? Similarly in jiu-jitsu, it's like, this is how you can kind of take an idea and carry it over to a bunch of different areas. So stuff like that was really helpful for me. So I think thinking about things that way, and then obviously not having many obligations. I mean, being 15 years old during the pandemic, so really didn't have much I had to do. I didn't do much homework. So
when you see jiu-jitsu in a lot of the videos like on YouTube, for example, like it's kind of like, it seems like a little bit of like a meathead culture with like wrestling and stuff like that as well. But then you seem to take a lot more of like an intellectual approach to jiu-jitsu. Do you think some people just do it on kind of like a instinctual level? And you think,
I mean, not everyone. I definitely think there are a lot of people who are very like intelligent about the way they approach it, but it would be, there's no denying that there's definitely that culture of being like, like being very strong sport, and like kind of just like trying harder, you know? I mean, this and this. I mean, I might be mischaracterizing, but isn't like Pohada like just like this kind of idea of like, oh, you just want to go. So I mean, I definitely think there's something to be said and something valuable about doing stuff like this, but then there's also, you have to use it intelligently. This can't be everything you're going with. You know, so I think like balancing the two, it's like you can't be like only toughness. And I think of this as like an idea that I really liked a lot was, actually, I think I got this. It was like a distinction between growth and performance. And like, I believe I got this from a YouTube video talking about Tekken or like Street Fighter, where I was like talking about the difference between the two. And it's like some people, if you're too much in a growth mindset, so like, it was like honers versus innovators. I think this is like a similar analog where some people, they just hone the same skill set over and over and really try to refine everything. And then some people, it's not so much about refinement, it's more about innovating with new ideas and trying to bring new techniques in. And so I really think ultimately in jiu-jitsu, it's about balancing the two. And it's a bit of a deviation from like going hard and like a meathead culture. But some people, it's like, I think, how can I connect this back where it's important to balance the two. And I found, like, for me at least in my jiu-jitsu, it's like basically when I'm about to compete, it's performance based, and that's really refining what I already have. Versus when I'm in a more of a off season or there's no immediate competitions coming up, then I'm in a more growth mindset where I'm going to be trying to on-take new information. And there are a lot of characteristics for each of these like mindsets, right? So if I'm more performance oriented, I'm going to be a lot more intuitive with the way I approach my training. I'm not going to think too much about, okay, what's happening in this position? What are some, I'm going to do what I know, and I'm going to try to do that in a very timely manner, versus in a more of this growth mindset where I'm trying to take new information. I'm going to work at a slower pace. I'm going to think more consciously about things. And this isn't necessarily conducive to like winning, but it's going to help me really think about what I'm doing and then take new ideas.
Yeah.
And then I feel like some people, they just do one too much. You know, there's some people that are just like, they just drill and they just play around with stuff, but they don't really take the time to refine it to the degree where they can use it competitively. But then there's some people who have a game that they just stuck to, and that's all they do. And so I think ultimately for me, I was very intentional about this, where I was just, I was very like, okay, I'm going to spend X period of time doing like this performance oriented approach, and then X period of time going with growth. And it's not like, I'm not so systematic in the sense I'm like, okay, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's more like a feeling, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I feel like I feel pretty good with where I'm at for my skill set for this certain comp, so now I'm just going to focus on refining.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, just how I see it is like a lot of people in most gyms, they just kind of want to come in, do their rounds, and get out, basically, right? Like the way the jiu-jitsu class is structured. But you seem to have this whole other level of like learning, basically. So, so when you're training, for example, you don't kind of do the traditional like 30 minutes of class, positional sparring, then just rolling, obviously, right? You approach it in a whole different manner.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Cause,
of course, yeah.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is like, to different people, it can be different things. I think this is one of the things that makes a hobby, I'm not saying jiu-jitsu is special, like whatever hobby you're doing, that takes you away from, it can give you a means to socialize, can give you a means to stay fit, can give you like something to think about, right? It's like whatever you want it to be, it can be this for you. I'm not saying everyone has to approach it exactly the way I am, right? But for me, the reason I enjoy it is because it kind of gives me this like intellectual playground where I can think about all these different ideas in this way. Right? I mean, obviously there's the bonus of, okay, I can stay somewhat fit, and then I can also socialize. Like, I mean, most of my friends, are met through jiu-jitsu. I don't know how I would have known them otherwise. So yeah, but I think that's what I really enjoy the most. So like what you're describing, where it's like this kind of approach. Like I was fortunate enough again, where fairly early in my jiu-jitsu journey, like I was encouraged to watch instructionals, and even during class, once I got to a certain level, my instructor was like, man, you can drill as long as you don't interrupt the class, just drill whatever you want to drill. You can like, they're very open discourse about a lot of these new ideas, and he was very open to new information. So it really was a great environment for me to actually like really try to learn a lot of new things.
Yeah. So if we're gonna discuss, like, if you're gonna tell, like, explain this to an idiot.
Same, bro. That's the reason I'm doing jiu-jitsu, you know?
So like, in terms of like when you're doing training, for example, so let's say, what would that look like in a typical, let's say, week or month, and how you're trying to do it, basically? Is it like mostly positional sparring? Is it I'm studying this and I'm gonna try and do this during a roll? Yeah.
So I mean, for example, like right now we're leading up to, for me, CGI, Kenta, ADCC, right? So right now we're still far enough out where it's not going to be like super performance oriented. We're still working on the skills that are going to be, or what we think is going to be appropriate for the rule set, but then slowly incorporating rounds, maybe like a shorter volume throughout the week of, okay, well, now we're going to do a competitive ADCC round. And like, this is something I think is very important. And it's like, you need that period where you get to practice these techniques, but then you need a period where you can actually use them in a competitive situation. So right now it's going to be more oriented towards ADCC, and that's the goal. But then when we're outside of that, man, I might just do something because I think it's cool. Yeah. Right. So for example, like a lot of stuff I was playing with before I came into like this camp is like no-gi omoplatas, and then using that and how I can play with that. Just because I found it interesting. I think it's cool. I don't think it's like mixing omoplata with crucifix and K-guard, and then like what Levi does in terms of like Xanadu guard. And this is just because I find it interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of my progress in jiu-jitsu is led by my own curiosity more than actually trying to win. You know, I mean, like now I do think about, okay, what's the strategy for me to win a match, right? but it's still like largely guided by, okay, I think this is pretty interesting. I'm going to try to play with this.
Yeah. So it's curiosity and the fact that you actually you had time to study, and you like, would you say you like to study as well?
I mean, I like to study if I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I think it's honestly about like finding what piques your interest. I do think, I mean, sometimes it can be, I'm not going to tell anyone you should sit through like an 8-hour instructional and bore yourself to death. I watch that.
Some people hate it, but
I watch those videos on at least 2 times speed.
Yeah.
By the way.
Oh,
but,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think we all know who we're talking about. But, but basically, I mean, I do that if I think it's necessary, right? But I try to be fairly introspective with where I think I need the most improvement. And so I'm like, okay, like for example, I feel like my supine guard is bad. Okay, then I'm going to work on my supine guard. And then what are some areas to start? I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to find. There are plenty of instructionals talking about this, plenty of practitioners who do this very well. Yeah. And so whatever piques your interest, go down that path, you know? Maybe it's not the most like optimal path. Like maybe you do something and it's like, oh, you kind of come to the conclusion where it's like, okay, it's not that good, but I mean, then you pivot, right? Yeah.
So regarding the introspection as well, like you're thinking, oh, maybe I need to improve here, maybe I need to improve there. Would you say you can definitely like accelerate that via having someone else looking at your rolls as well, or did you start doing this like by watching your own rolls first?
I think it's most important to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with having like a coach help you, and I think it works very well. But in the long term, you want to be able to do it yourself. Yeah. Right? You want to be able to not rely on someone else, because otherwise you're going to be more or less a reflection of them and not your own practitioner. I think that there's definitely a time and a place, and it's not necessarily wrong to like really take out some stuff from like an instructor, but that can't be all.
You can't
like,
just be getting like spoon fed the whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this. I mean, if you're just doing it for fun, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to get like, I think, as good as you can, you're going to have to, it's going to be a lot of you doing the work, you thinking about, okay, what am I going to do here? What do I think works for me? Because again, like I'm sure, I mean, you've trained for long enough to realize this, where it's like something that works for person A won't necessarily work for person B.
Absolutely.
Right. And then also thinking about why that is the case. And that's going to help you become a better instructor. Yeah. And it's like ultimately becoming, your own jiu-jitsu mind, where you're able to think about these problems critically and then derive certain solutions, and then you're able to like, I don't know, make everything make sense a little bit more. So, I mean, this is, I don't know, I feel like kind of the path that I went down, especially like really trying to get as good as I can, just because I thought it would be cool. You know, like I signed up for my first trials when I was an orange belt. Yeah. It got delayed till 2021, 2022. But I thought it was always fun.
Maybe you're 19, so, you know, I try to refrain from asking like, what would you tell a young competitor? Because I always feel like, man, this guy, I'm 32, so I still have dreams, you know? But, you know, obviously the youth is going to be able to relate to you. Like like I said, I'm a head coach at Underworld Jiu-Jitsu, and I have 2 15-year-olds, and, you know, they got the whole world in front of them. You know, they want to do MMA. One of them wants to do MMA. The other one definitely wants to do competitive jiu-jitsu. And so, yeah, what would be your piece of advice? Because to them, you're like, you know, the superstar. So what would you tell them as to like maybe one thing that they could focus on that would definitely help them?
Yeah. So I'd probably say like, I do think you want to have like the long term in mind, because I feel like you see a lot of young kids burn themselves out sometimes. And so I think that's something to be cautious of. But in terms of in general, I think it's like try to make sure you still enjoy training. Obviously, there are going to be days that are tough, and sometimes those are necessary. But you don't want to put yourself in a situation where, like, I've like, especially when I'm training here, sometimes like I'll be doing 3 a days, and if I'm training hard and I'm not really doing anything outside of it, sometimes it'll get to me where I feel a little bit more burnt out. So being wary of this, and that doesn't mean like taking like days off training, but it's kind of like where are you occupying your mind? Because sometimes if you take training too seriously all the time, you kind of lose the love for it. And I think that's kind of what'll really keep you going. There are a lot of things like you can push hard and really get a lot of things done, but I think it's like you want to be here for a long time, right? You don't want to have to just like burn super bright and then completely burn out. I feel like, at least for me, jiu-jitsu is something I love. It's not something I just want to get good at and then like that's it, and then I won't do jiu-jitsu. I want to do it for like the rest of my life. So it's important for me that, especially as like for us, like we're professional competitors, when it's something like it's your livelihood, it can often like running a gym, I'm sure you can relate. Sometimes it gets a little bit more stressful. It's hard to really enjoy the jiu-jitsu. So just keeping that in mind and not necessarily putting too much pressure on yourself all the time. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you're about to compete. You really need to like double down. You need to really focus, but then that's not all the time. So like for right now, I'm kind of in an off season where I'm playing around with new technique. I'm really enjoying jiu-jitsu. I'm not worried about, okay, I need to win every round. I'm just kind of playing with things, kind of seeing what I like to do, and just kind of enjoying training as much as I can, enjoying the experience, enjoying the people around me, and so on.